very important issue. This issue first came to my attention back in March when Bo Bolton, publisher of the Monroe Journal in Monroeville, Alabama, home of Harper Lee, traveled all the way to Washington, D.C. to meet with me and my team. Bo's message was urgent and clear. Newly implemented tariffs by the Department of Commerce threaten the livelihood of his small town newspaper and thousands of other small community papers that serve as the lifeblood of their communities throughout this country. Since that meeting, I had a regular stream of publishers visit with me sharing the exact same message, asking for any relief possible that they have to start cutting their services or laying off what few staff they might have. What was really even more appalling to me was how we came to be in this position in the first place. The sources for domestically produced newsprint are quite scarce, requiring the newspapers around the country to purchase their newsprint from Canadian suppliers. In other words, the domestic jobs that would be protected by these tariffs is relatively minuscule compared to the number of jobs in the United States that these tariffs threaten. But one domestic producer, Norpac, N-O-R-P-A-C, which is owned by a New York hedge fund, filed a complaint with the Department of Commerce, alleging Canadian newspaper suppliers were being subsidized by their government and thus able to sell below market value. As I understand its common practice, the Commerce Department levied a preliminary tariff of 6.53% in January. That jumped to an average of 22% in March when a Canadian producer was found to be below the market price. Here's what I just don't understand. Why would this administration levy these outrageous tariffs when our own newspaper publishers, logging industry, and paper suppliers do not support the decision? It seems to me that the only thing being protected by this tariff is a small portion of a Wall Street hedge fund's portfolio. It certainly isn't protecting the 600,000 printing and publishing jobs across the country, including jobs at every newspaper in the state of Alabama. But you don't have to just take my word for it. I've heard directly from newspapers across my state about how they're hurting. The Decatur Daily is facing an increase of $450,000 over their 2017 cost, and they've eliminated 11 full-time positions already. Aside from payroll, newsprint is their single largest expense. You'll hear that refrain from many small papers. Samuel Martin, the publisher of the Birmingham Times in Birmingham, Alabama, wrote to me saying that they are, quote, hanging on by our fingertips, all ready to survive, and things like these tariffs will be the difference on surviving for so many, end quote. Russell Quattlebaum from the Southeastern Sun went a step further, writing, quote, metro newspapers are struggling and have been before the tariff. This may be the nail in their coffin, exclamation point, end quote. The alarm bells that are being rung by these small businesses are a chorus that you just cannot ignore. Please do not ignore it. This tariff is killing jobs and threatening an industry that is vitally important for our communities, and it's already struggling. While some big-name media outlets have found their footing in the digital age, that's not the case for everyone. For many in small towns in Alabama and across the country, folks still like to get their news from actual newspapers. They still like to read a paper front to back, hold it in the hand. They cut the coupons. They read the local events calendar. They learn about what their elected officials are doing, or in some cases, not doing. Frankly, there are still far too many places where Americans still struggle to get access to broadband. These folks don't have the option to go online to get their news. The digital model just doesn't work there, at least not yet. These small newspapers cover local news that wouldn't make it into larger regional papers if they were to shut their doors. Local businesses would lose perhaps their only outlet in which to reach their customers. The biggest losers in this fight ultimately will be the residents who rely on their local newspapers to stay informed. So when I say these papers are the lifeblood of their communities, it is not an exaggeration. It's a fact. That's why I've been so deeply concerned about this tariff. If it's not rolled back, it will present an existential threat to local newspapers that are already strapped. It is why I left duties on Capitol Hill this afternoon to come here today to urge you to reconsider this tariff, and instead consider the significant impact it has already had on these small American businesses. I hope you take to heart the urgent calls you're hearing today and make the right decision to eliminate these tariffs and protect this industry and the valuable service it provides to all of us. Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, thank you very much for allowing me to come in a little bit out of order today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Jones. Do any commissioners have questions? There are none. We appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.